Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Coach's Corner presented by On Track College Advising. Thanks for tuning in today. Our guest is Michael Woodson. Michael is the men's tennis coach at Baylor University, and he's a product of Valparaiso University, where he was triple major in bio, chem, and exercise science, all while playing on the Men's Crusaders tennis program. After his playing career, he ended up getting a master's degree in sports administration from Valpo and began coaching alongside Valpo's longtime coach, Jim Doherty. After a few short seasons, he transitioned into the head coaching role for Valpo, where he led the program to its first ever NCAA appearance. He then moved on to Baylor, where he has seen tremendous success in his 9 seasons. This begins his fifth year as the head coach, and during his tenure, the Bears have reached the national championships, where they earned the ITA's indoor #1 ranking. Please enjoy the show. Thanks so much for being here today. I appreciate you taking the time with us.
No, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be joining you.
Well, I'm excited to see all the success that you're having. I'm curious. When you arrived at Baylor from Valpo, what was the biggest difference in terms of the tennis program's infrastructure, facilities, overall support? I know what I experienced at Valpo, but what was the difference for you moving there to Baylor?
It's a different world, to be honest. And in a lot of different aspects. I think when it comes, there's two different pieces that I look at, and that's resources. So the number of staff members, the facilities, the funding, the support, from everybody, from the community, and then there's the coaching piece, which is the relationship that you have with the student athletes. And so no comparison when it comes to facilities, resources, all those things. When it comes to the coaching side, the forehands and the backhands and the serves are better, but they are the same. They have the same issues. They are all. Everybody thinks their forehand's bad. Everybody has social issues. School's hard. They're stressed. Like it's the relationships that you build and the way that you connect with the student athlete is very much the same. Uh, to be honest, it's I feel like I'm better prepared to be here, or I was, and I still feel this way having been at Valpo because I was exposed to so much more as a coach, as a student athlete than I am here at Baylor. There's 15 people that do the job that I did at Valpo, and so I have had my hand in all. Now as a head coach, I know and appreciate all those different people, but I also know the standard that you should do that work, too.
Yeah.
And so I benefited from it. I think the biggest thing that helped me also at Valpo was I did not understand the difference. And so it was the grass was greener where I watered it, and so I didn't
Sure.
ever think like I need to go somewhere else. I thought we're going to win national championships here, at Valpo and compete at that level. Like, and Mark LaBarbera would laugh listening to this. He took me out to lunch one time and tried to explain to me that we weren't going to win the national championship. And I was like, I'm not going to tell my guys we're going to lose the last match of the year, like
Yeah.
we're going to win the whole thing. And so, we made a big deal and got excited about the chocolate milk that we got at the end of the weight room session. That was new, and we didn't know that at Baylor, our refrigerator is fully stocked in the locker room for men's tennis every single day. And so, those are the differences. But at the end of the day, I mean, the coaching and the student athletes are the same and how you relate to them. And it just, yeah, I mean, it was such a fruitful experience at Valpo, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Coach Doherty and the relationships I had, with coaches like you and with Mark as the AD and just everybody that helped shape me and stoke the fire inside of me to want to do this at a level where I can make a big impact.
That's awesome. Well, Baylor's Power Five, right? So it's definitely, I mean, you've talked to it already a little bit about the differences in budget and resource allocations for the student athletes and for athletics overall. How's that impacted your ability to, operate the tennis program from travel to buying equipment to staffing? What's that look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot different when it comes to what's expected. I would say it is a bit of an arms race up here.
Yeah.
And I think yes, we have more resources, and yes, we are expected to travel a lot more in recruiting, to give the incoming student athletes a little bit of a different experience. The recruiting piece, you need to show them more love, roll out the red carpet when they come in on a visit, stuff like that. It's a more intensive relationship, I would say. with before, during, and after their time at Baylor. But really, I think, what we try to do, it becomes a little bit more of a challenge at Baylor in keeping guys humble, grateful for the opportunity to be a part of this, and just an overall appreciation level for the experience that you're having. My big thing going into coaching was I want to create a relationship with the student athlete where they feel like they are receiving as much or more than they are giving to the program. I did not want my guys to ever feel like, man, I'm giving so much to Valpo and I'm getting nothing in return. Or,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's real or not in their minds, I don't want them thinking that. I think we
Sure.
can always make a strong case, man, we're doing so much for these guys. Well, the perception is reality at the end of the day. If they think that they are giving more than they are receiving, then they are. And so we have to balance that out. That gets hard here because we give them so much that they get used to it. I get used
Yeah.
to it. I mean, we have the best outdoor facility in the country. We just hosted all the national championships this past year. Our stadium seats 3,000, and we have 6 courts behind that outside, not to mention our indoor tennis facility that hosts the indoor national championships. So, but there are days where we need to go on the back 6 courts to practice, and I will catch myself thinking, I don't want to walk that extra 50 feet, to go to the back when I'm used to playing right here outside my window in my office. That
Yeah.
is terrible. I mean, it's just, I can't even believe I'm saying it out loud, but you get used to it. My guys will walk in and on day one, they're like, whoa, do I have to pay for those snacks and the drinks in the locker room? And then 2 weeks in, they're like, what the heck? It's empty. I mean,
Yeah.
what happened? Is somebody going to refill this? And so it's all relative.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really cool experience. I am passionately pro Baylor and what we do as an institution and as an athletic department. But at the same time, the arms race that is at all levels of college athletics, it takes no prisoners. I mean, it
Yeah.
is, we're all guilty of falling victim to this race and giving more and more and more, and then getting used to it, and unfortunately sometimes spoiling our student athletes.
Yeah. You don't want to take them or have them take it for granted by any means. So, hey, I know at Valpo, you've alluded to it here too. You had to wear a lot of different hats, right? So, how's the support staff at Baylor changed the day-to-day role that you have and allowed you to really focus more on the coaching side of things?
It's I would say, especially for my assistant coaches, it's completely different. Like, they can truly focus on building the relationship with the student athlete and working on their development on and off the court. And for me as well, I'm a little bit more hyper focused on that. I think being in the head coaching role, I wear a lot of administrative hats, and so I still have meetings and different things with the upper administration and athletics. I serve roles with the ITA, which is the governing body of tennis. I'm on the operating committee there. I have some different responsibilities in those areas that
Mhm.
will take me away from the court sometimes. But, just having our own strength and conditioning coach just for tennis, having a dietitian, having, an academic advisor, having stringers, managers, an athletic trainer, a mental performance coach, multiple assistants, like, we didn't have that.
Yeah.
It was me and Coach Doherty and Coach Trueblood, who was we finagled into having a volunteer assistant, and the three of us did everything. I mean, I remember putting guys in their classes, running study tables, painting the logos on the courts, putting the banners up and down, doing all the recruiting, all these different things. And so, stringing all the rackets. I mean, the real gritty details of the program. And so it is quite a bit different. I think we're able to serve the student athlete at a higher level, which is required of us given that every guy that comes here has professional tennis aspirations and will go on and play pro. And so they need us, and that is required of us. And so I feel good about being able to serve them at the level that they need. But it is definitely more hyper focused day to day.
Yeah. I know Randy Schneider, who used to be a softball coach at Valpo, used to talk about it being sweat equity that you put into the programs and what you see
For
comes out of
sure.
that. So you've been great at building a strong culture and developing those guys there at Baylor. What's your recruiting philosophy and how does that directly influence the program at Baylor?
Well, the culture is everything. I mean, you know that better than anybody, and so we spend a ton of time building the culture off the court. Tennis is like track and field, and I mean, it's an individual sport. So
Yeah.
these guys need to be developed individually to be able to help the team have success. And so we really try to individualize everything when it comes to their development. The team building, culture building stuff really comes off the court. I try to make it as organic as possible, make sure to address everything in real time, really encourage them to have strong communication skills, to take on the tough conversations. The guys came up with every year, they come up with their own saying, whatever it is going to be that there's going to be their focus for the year. Last year was invite the tough stuff. And then they laid out what does that look like, give 100% of what they have on the day, own their role, all these different things. And so we really tried to establish a strong culture. In tennis, with a small team of about 10 guys, it takes one person to mess the whole thing up, really. And so we're super careful in the recruiting process. And I've learned that over the years. You don't always want the hyper talented kid, if that's a bottom third culturally, those guys can bring you down. You need the top guys to actually be very strong culturally, and maybe it will bring some of the middle guys up instead of taking them, the followers down with them. And so we really do it a little bit differently than maybe just recruiting all the highest rated players. We, try to watch them practice. We watch them compete. We talk to their parents. You would be amazed how many coaches do not talk to parents. And I want to hear what they have to say. The apple does not fall far from the tree, Ryan,
Yeah,
and so
for
I want to
sure.
know what they have to say, what their thoughts are. I want to watch them watch a match and see how they're acting, and how they're treating their son, how their son is treating them, how their son is treating their coach in practice in a match. And not just on video. I mean, video, they're showing you what they want
Sure.
you to see. I want
Yeah.
to see it live. And that's not always possible, but I think we have to develop a really strong relationship. We're talking about 2 or 3 kids a year here for tennis. And so we want to get it right. And so we really do a lot of research and watch a lot and talk to a ton of people and figure out what our short list of guys looks like. And then we recruit the heck out of them and try to really win at a high percentage in those, once we've decided this is somebody we really want.
Well, when you move from the Horizon League to the Big 12, I mean, the caliber of recruits that you're targeting has to shift, right? So, what are the key differences in the type of players that you're able to attract now? And I mean, those recruits that are coming to Baylor, what's the differences there?
Yeah, it was interesting. We were able to punch above our weight a ton. I think I'm quoting Mark LaBarbera when I say that,
Love it.
at Valpo, in that we had an all-American team from every kid was from the Midwest, which is very unusual in the sport of college tennis. It's a highly international
Hmm.
sport. I think, north of 50% of all student athletes in men's tennis in the country are international. And so we had a very unique experience, and it started out with, we don't have very many scholarships. We have no international financial aid at Valpo at that time. I don't know what it is right now. And so we were really, this is our only option. And so we developed a ton of momentum by, the guys we had on the team who are their friends that are better, really better than them, that are highly rated recruits, gave them a ton of love and attention, and really acted the part. Hey, come be a part of this vision that we're going to do it differently.
Yeah.
That you're going to be a part of something special that has never been done before. And then that eventually grew into, wow, look at what Valpo men's tennis is doing. I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of this Midwest culture. It's a little bit unique for college tennis. And in college tennis, international recruiting can be so much easier than American recruiting, as strange as that sounds, because tennis is the second most popular sport in the world
Yeah.
behind soccer. And so there are tons of tennis players out there. It's the 7th most popular sport in the United States. So fortunately
Yeah.
for college tennis coaches, every single day you're getting bombarded with emails from pretty good players. And so if you get to this level, and at the middle tier of the Power Four conferences, those players are a dime a dozen, and you can get a lot of them very quickly if you need them, and it isn't a lot of work. The American kids, you have to start recruiting them, after their sophomore year. You have to talk to them every single day. They have, like, it's a 2-year process, and you may lose the process.
Yeah.
Whereas truly international kids can sometimes be 1 day, 1 week, 2 weeks. They can be a little, as you get to the top of the world rankings, it gets more competitive. But,
Sure.
there's a group from maybe 25 in the country every year in the United States to 75 that the mid-major schools think they can't get, so they don't try. And the top schools think that they're not quite good enough, so they don't go after them. Those kids are really good, but they fall through the cracks. And if they do not recruit themselves to a school intentionally, they're gonna end up in a position where maybe a Valpo can scoop them up.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a bunch of guys that were total Big Ten, snubbed me. I'm going to prove them wrong. Watch
On
us
the
do
shoulder.
this.
Yeah.
And they did. Next thing you know, we would have finished middle of the Big Ten by the time we were done at Valpo, maybe top third, to be honest, with those guys. But it is and recruiting's different in every sport, but those kids fall through the cracks. And so, at Baylor, we're looking at the top players in the world. We're looking at the top 5 to 10 Americans every year. Maybe there's a diamond in the rough that's a really good kid that we see potential with,
Mm-hmm.
but it's truly, I've got a lot of guys on my team that were top 50, top 25 in the world in the juniors. And so that's, you have to have the level, but and it's more competitive, but I think it's the philosophy is really the same. It's just a little bit of a different level of recruiting.
So beyond talent, what are the key characteristics or values that you look for in a recruit that will let you know that they're going to be a good fit for the program?
How they go through the recruiting process, to me, is very telling. Do they need your help with everything? Are they figuring things out on their own? How responsive are they? Are they following up with text messages, emails, calls? The world that we live in today is very different, and the way that these young men and young women are raised is different. And so, I'm kind of looking at who stands out. Do they engage, or are they interested in, do they have other interests besides tennis? What do they do with their time? How are they academically? It still matters, even at a place like Baylor, where we're looking for guys that are future pros. I mean, those things do matter. Like I said earlier, how do they treat everybody around them? What do my guys think of them? What's their reputation amongst their peers? When they come to campus, how do they mesh with the other student athletes? How much do they love the sport? How competitive are they? I mean,
Yeah.
you would be amazed how many very highly talented young men are not that competitive. I want somebody that's dying to beat me in rock, paper, scissors. I mean, if you need that, because when it gets hard, you need somebody that's like, I want to win every single day. Whatever it is that we're doing, we need to want to win. Those are the guys that go on and make it at the next level. The ones that don't need a bunch of people in the stands to motivate them to do something. And you can kind of tell that in the recruiting process. And so you really just try to pay attention to the little details. And it is amazing if you focus on it enough, you can tell kind of what you're getting into. And I try to be as honest and open with them. This is who we are. This is how it's going to be. We have to do some visits and stuff, and we try to make the visit nice, but I try not to overdo it, because listen, we have 6 or 7 home football games every year. They're awesome. Everybody at the school has fun. It's an amazing experience, but that isn't why you're picking a school.
Yeah.
Or if it is why you're picking a school, I don't want you on my team. Like, you're going to have a great time here at Baylor, okay, but you are choosing to come maximize yourself on and off the court. And so we try to be like, this is who we are. What I don't want is to be somebody that I'm not, to butter them up so much and act like this amazing person that meshes just with them to make them happy, and then get them here and then we're somebody different. So I want them to know this is who we are, and if it's not the right fit, that's okay. Go somewhere else. I don't like We've never lost a lineup player in 14 years of me coaching, and I think that's because we've been upfront and honest with them from the beginning, so they kind of know what they're getting themselves into. And that's what we want. We want a relationship, and it's a big decision. We want them to make it once, and we only want to have to make it once.
Yeah. So, with the college landscape constantly changing, what's one significant shift that you've seen in the tennis recruiting space over the past few years, and how has Baylor adapted to that? Have you had to?
I think we've had to double down on transformational in a transactional world. We certainly have to continue to strengthen our ability to support our young men before, during, and after their time at Baylor as they pursue the next level of the game. And that's something that we work tirelessly on to make as seamless as possible for our young men, and
Hmm.
make sure they're really prepared for that next step. And as the game grows and as there's more, the best players in the world are coming out of college, or most of them now. It's really it has been a big shift, and so that has been something that we've had to spend a lot of time on. But I think just the college athletics is now transactional. It is, what can you do for me? I'm going to come in and do this, and then maybe I'm out after 1 year. You can go to 4 different schools in 4 years.
Yeah.
You can profit off of your name, image, and likeness. We'll see what's going to happen here over the next couple of years with the new rules. I'm hoping we can get it under control,
Yeah.
but it's truly not what it was before. And it hurts the student athletes, I think, because the coaches are so worried about, well, if I'm too hard on that kid, or if sometimes they need a little kick in the pants, and it's in their best interest. And if I do that and we don't have a strong enough relationship and they're not ready to hear it, they're just going to go in the transfer portal and go to our biggest rival. And that's not good for the kid. It's not good for the coaches because we're not able to be as effective. And so it's just kind of hurting the whole growth and development process. And so we've doubled and tripled down on being transformational. Ryan, I am not going to do this if it's not transformational. I did not get into this to be a GM. I did not get into this to be a strong businessman, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, there's probably more of a business aspect of this role than I would like. And I try not to talk about it as much as possible, especially with our guys. But there is that aspect. I think now, though, I just feel fortunate to be in a sport where there is still some semblance of transformation, and we are going to make an impact on these young men. And I want to be a part of their lives well beyond their time at Baylor. And I want to see them go on and have success on the court, off the court, as fathers, husbands, men of faith. I joke, as contributing members of society, and I
Absolutely.
hope to be at all of their weddings, down the road. And so that's the type of relationship I want to have with my student athletes. And yeah, it's not always going to be pretty, but I hope we can develop a trust between each of us, that they can be open and honest with me, and I can be open and honest with them when they really need it, because that's what I got from all of my coaches and mentors coming up, from my parents, and especially from Coach Doherty. And, I want to be able to give that back. That's why I'm doing it.
Yeah, that's great. When you first identify a recruit, right, what's your typical approach for how you get in contact? Are they reaching out to you? How do you begin to evaluate them? And then are there specific events or tournaments that you focus on when you're scouting?
So I learned this from one of our previous head coaches here at Baylor, and he subscribed to what he calls wholesale recruiting versus retail recruiting.
Hmm.
And it's always stuck with me. Man, that's so well said. And I don't like just going to a tournament and watching everybody. I don't like going to a tournament where there's 150 coaches there.
Yeah.
You're just you're not going to get a lot done. They all talk. They just distractions and talking to each other. And I'm going some. If I'm going to leave my family and my team to go do something, there is a very specific purpose. I am going there to watch a couple of guys tops. I'm getting in. I'm watching them, maybe having a meeting, depending on how old they are and what the rules, are for that current time. And I'm getting out of there. And so there are a couple of tournaments you have to go to. The Grand Slams in tennis are big because there's the Junior Grand Slam at every tournament. And so we go to those. Fortunately, now for me, I've got some former players that are playing in the slams in the pros. And so
Hmm.
I could kind of double dip and see them, and do a
Sure.
little recruiting at the same time. So it's rewarding. And then the Hardcourt Nationals at Kalamazoo, which is in a couple of weeks every year. That's a huge tournament. We usually have incoming players that are playing, as well as some of the younger guys coming up. And so we have to go to those. Outside of that, I usually just will fly to meet with a player, their family at their home, to watch them practice, and kind of take care of the recruiting piece that way. And yeah, just lock in on whoever it is. as opposed to doing what everybody else does, which is, I'm going to every single one of these tournaments, and there's probably 8 tournaments that most coaches go to. I just don't. I don't love that. I don't think it's that effective. Yeah, there's just so many coaches. It gets a little chaotic for the players, for the coaches, and haven't found that we will fall behind in that space. We can usually we know, what if these kids are interested in us or not early on in conversation, and then we'll just try to whittle it down for us and then focus on and making sure those kids understand, hey, at the end of the day, we want to do a great job with our current players. Okay, if we do a really good job with them, they're going to say good things and we'll get the next guy. You don't want me to be following you around right now as a recruit, because that means I'm not back with my own players. And I'm very, very big on, we don't just worry about the next guy. We worry about our guys.
So let me just double down on that a little bit, right? So talk about the preferred line of communication with recruits and their families through the process. And then what advice would you give somebody like in a recruiting role who is trying to effectively communicate with the college coach?
I'm a texter. I'm a big texter. It's just the world that I live in, but my phone is effectively attached to me at all times. I'll look at it when we're done with this, and Lord knows how many messages and calls I've gotten, but it's easy access. We are very accessible now as coaches through all the different lines of communication. So that's mine. I like to do the occasional phone call, but just like to check in with kids via text, and I like to talk to the parents on the phone. My assistants are more phone call people, and so they would rather not text all the time and set up one phone call every 2 weeks and talk to the kid for 2 hours. And that's, so I think it's a little bit personal preference. For a kid or a family, I would learn, whoever is important to you, learn their method of communication and do that, and yeah, I think that will make it effective. The second part of your question was
Just about, how they can effectively communicate with them. So you've covered
yes.
that. That's,
Yeah, I think honestly, to me, the ones that do the best job are the ones that will really show a high level of interest in you. I mean, if they're a small list of schools that a young man or young woman has, they should go after those schools and just understand that we are all busy. I hate to say this, we're not the most professional group when it comes to like responding to emails and messages and stuff. And there is a lot going on, and we get pulled in a bunch of different directions with our, again, current and former student athletes and all of our responsibilities, our families and everything. But if a school is important to you and of high interest, it doesn't mean you have to go there. Show them that you are interested. And I can think of kids that have reached out like, hey, 2 weeks before the first date that we can contact them, I get an email saying, hey, coach, I just wanted you to know I look forward to talking to you on June 15th. I'm really interested in Baylor, and here's why. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And it's honestly so easy in the world of AI now. I mean, these kids can put together the most impressive emails I've ever seen. And you're wondering, is it them or is it the AI?
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. It's just the thought, that counts. And I had a kid 2 weeks ago that just followed up and said, hey, I really enjoyed our first conversation, was wondering if we could touch base again and have a follow-up conversation, because I've talked to a few different coaches. I have these questions. I mean, that's really impressive stuff from a 16-year-old. And so that makes a big impact on us as coaches. And you're certainly more interested in the kids that want to be at your place. At the end of the day, that's what we want. We want a team full of guys that want to be here.
Sure. Well, when you structure visits, we talked about that a little bit. I mean, I know you said that, hey, you've got 7 home football games, and that's a big time to have stuff going on. But what do you hope that a recruit takes away from that visit experience with you guys?
That our current players are really enjoying their experience here. That to me is very important. And in this process, your student athletes at any school, at any level, on any team are not going to lie to the recruit in order to get the best player here. They're just not. They're going to tell you how it is. Maybe some are a little bit more, reserved than others, but if you spend time with those 10 players throughout a 48-hour period or however long the visits are these days, you will figure out what kind of experience they're having. And I want them
Yeah.
to see that my guys love it at Baylor. They feel like this is a family and that this was the best decision that they've ever made. And so my work in recruiting is really every day making sure my guys are doing a great job, that they're happy, that they're fulfilled, that they feel like the grass is green here at Baylor
Yeah.
with the men's tennis program. And there's nowhere else I would rather be, no matter how much money some other schools have, or no matter what that facility looks like, or who those coaches are, or how many matches they won, or and so that's really important for me. And we just try to be, hey, this is who we are. I love it when the parents come on the visit as well. I think it's really important. These kids, like, love them to death, but at 16, 17 years old, they're highly impressionable. And the big chains that they put on their neck and the uniform, then they take pictures of them, is more important to the 16-year-old than, like, how is the coach going to care for their kid in 3 years? What's the academic
Yeah.
support like? All these different things. And the kid can miss that. And at the end of the day, Ryan, we are paid to sound good as coaches. So we're all going to do a good job.
Sure.
And so you need to be able to get past all that stuff and say, where's the real substance? What is this place really like? And so I think parents and the whole family being here, really, everybody sees it a little bit differently, and they can kind of piece it together, which place really looks like home. And yeah, we just want to make sure that we present ourselves as to who we truly are, so that the young man comes in and they either really like it for what it is, or they're like, ooh, this is what it's like, not for me. And that's okay.
Yeah. What are some expectations that you have for your incoming freshmen, both on and off the court, as they continue to transition from high school to college tennis?
I want them to understand that it is really cool to be able to play college athletics, but it's very, very hard. It's demanding. What you're trying to do here or anywhere is difficult. I mean, what somebody's doing as just a regular student is their full-time job, and then you're going to have a full-time job in your sport, especially these days where it is truly year round. My freshmen all came in on June 8th, and they've been here the whole time. They're playing a tournament right now on our campus. And so they're here, and they also would like to have a life,
Yeah.
some social life, some friends, like some good times. And there's not enough time in the day for all of this. So it is very hard. And we want them to understand that. And we want them to, as quickly as possible, get themselves organized, have a high level of discipline, and just be coachable. Like, we know that they're going to make mistakes. We know that it's not going to, you're not going to go from, an incoming freshman to the best player on the team and in the country in a day. Probably not in a year. And that's okay. Just meet expectations every single day from the coaches. We try to be as communicative and honest and open with them as possible, and just pay attention to that stuff. And if you can do that, you're usually going to have a better experience.
So, having the success that you've had at Baylor already, right? What keeps you motivated in that recruiting process and, continuing to build the program the way you are?
Well, I'm really competitive. And so, I want to, I want to win. I think everybody here wants to win. We have a standard here. We want to be the best athletic department in the country. That comes from our athletic director all the way down. And so that's my charge, is to live out, his goals and aspirations. And Mac is the best of the best. I mean, he's the head of the CFP now for a reason. He's got his hands in everything because of his great reputation. He's been named AD of the year nationally, and so we have an unbelievable support staff from up top. And so it's really the least that I can do to serve Baylor, athletics, Baylor University at a high level. And yeah, I'm just generally a competitive person. If you know my family, everybody's competitive. Vanessa's more competitive than I am. And so it's that's who we are. But at the same time, like, I think the more success we have, the bigger the platform for impact we have. And that was my original goal, to get to a place like Baylor, was just to be able to live out my mom's legacy and tell her story, and to be able to impact young lives in a similar way that she did as a teacher. Like, my dad coached for so many years, and the impact that he's had, now living close to him, I see it every single day. It's really special. And so I want to be able to live out the legacy of my parents and do right by my family. And so, it drives me to want to be better, and then to want to serve our student athletes at a better level every single day and every year. And even though the landscape is changing, for me, that's the biggest thing. Is I just want my guys to have a great experience. I want them to go on and have great success after their time at Baylor, and I want them to look back and say, hey man, I would just love to have one more year, just one more year. And you hear so many guys and girls say that. It becomes a chaos in the time that you're in college, but then when you're done, you look back, it's like, wow, that was the best time of my life. And even though it's hard and it's competitive, I want my guys to feel that and to have that experience while they're here. And so, winning is fun. Winning is fun. Pursuing winning, the journey is and the process are way more important than the destination. We've won a lot here. We've got a lot of trophies and rings and stuff, but the guys don't talk about that. They talk about the trips together and the hard sessions of fitness, and all the silly games we played the night before the national championship match, not the actual national championship match, stuff like that. And I think you learn that over time as a coach. I mean, those are the things that are really important, and the success drives buy-in and it gives you credibility, and so we want that. But at the end of the day, it's not the most important thing for me. It's the process and the relationships built along the way that really motivate me.
All right, so let's talk real quick here about your expectations for the coming season. What are some of the goals that you have set for the year ahead?
It's interesting that my team last year, they did a phenomenal job. I thought they moved the culture ahead tremendously. I thought they laid some real groundwork for what is coming in the future. And at times during the year, I felt like, man, I think we might be 1 year away from really being a national contender. And we lost the last match 4-3 in the NCAA tournament at Texas A&M. Last match on third set, number one singles, just brutal, tough loss. And I walked away thinking, shoot, I was right. We were just there. We were almost contending for a championship, but we weren't quite there yet. We played for a Big 12 championship. We lost. We were right there with the top teams in the country. We just couldn't get over the hump. And I think this team has a real makeup of a national contender. I would never put the pressure on them to say that we should be accomplishing anything, but we can do it. We've got a really strong returning class. We've got one of the top transfers in the country coming from Old Dominion. We have one of the top American players in the country coming in as a freshman, and two other really high-level American players that all four can make an impact. And the six returners are three of our best players from last year, and it was five of our top six. So we've got a really good group of guys here that it's a nice mix of youth and experience, and they're hungry, and the culture's in a great place. And so the sky's the limit for this team, and yeah, hopefully I don't screw it up.
Well, hey, I just wish you the most success possible this year. Thank you so much for taking the time to connect with me today and to do this. Guys, again, our guest has been Michael Woodson with Baylor Men's Tennis. Tune in next time, everybody. Have a great day. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Ryan.